So this is part 2 of my folk singing, and as you all know, because most of you came to my first talk last week, I had 2 lives. I was a rocket scientist during the day, and then at night I was a hippie. I was a folk singer. And you'll see me wearing a tuxedo at a number of these scenes I have now. That's because these scenes are from the 1990s, and I directed a lot of shows. And when I was the director of the show and the MC, then I wore a tuxedo. But if I was playing in a coffee house back in the 60s, I wore farmer jeans and looked as sloppy as I possibly could. And I even briefly had long hair. But I didn't really like that look, and it was kind of falling over my eyes and everything. And then I tried a beard, and I looked like Adolf Hitler. So people were saluting me, and so that didn't work. So I went back to the clean-shaven look. So anyway, in the 1960s. Most of you probably remember the hippie era. People were frightened because of the Vietnam War, and these young people knew that they would be the ones that would be called up as a cannon fodder. They would be fighting a war that they couldn't see any sense to, and I couldn't see any sense to it either. I didn't know why we got into that war. It didn't make any sense at all. And the moment we got out, of course, they went right back to what they did before, because nobody likes you conquering them. They have their own, particularly they don't even speak English, So it was a terrible mistake to do that. And we did that in Iraq also. That was an awful mistake. But when in the 1960s, everybody wanted to play the guitar and sing folk songs. And I just fell right into it because I already was a folk singer and had been maybe 10 years before that singing for audiences. So a lot of churches had me come in and sing during the service so that they would be in keeping with the latest thing. And I got to know a lot of the ministers in the area, and I liked all the services too. It was interesting to me to see how different services were. There was one I went to, everything was in Latin. And the women were down front and the men were in the back, and they were all fooling around and reading a book and everything, because they didn't understand a word of it. So, it really was, I think, a mistake to have that type of a service. But then all of a sudden they wanted to be with it, so they changed to English, and I came in and did the music. So I'm singing Bob Dylan songs and stuff like that in this very religious setting, and but I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. So teenagers were frightened that they were going to die, and I can understand how frightening that is. But there was also an era of free love. The thing was, if it feels good, do it. And there was no AIDS then, or at least they didn't know about it. So a lot of women, young women, 15 years old, 16, were getting pregnant. And I knew about that personally because one of my family members, not my twin brother or myself, but another member of my family, when he was a senior in college, he got a woman pregnant, and now my father had to go and pay for the abortion, and it was very dramatic, and a lot of conflict about whether she wanted to get the divorce or not, the abortion or not. But they decided that otherwise she'd be stuck with this baby, and it turned out she was younger than she told my family member she was, so that made it even worse. So anyway, I knew all about that problem, and so that's one of the things that I was concerned about. During that era, where all the teenagers were so upset and rebelling and so on, the pastors of the local churches tried to counsel them, but the concept back then is don't trust anybody over 30 years old. So I got a call from the consular churches, and they wanted me to start a coffee house and sing folk songs, because that was the big deal then. and that would give me a chance to give sermons on various topics. I'd been doing a lot of counseling for young people at that point in my life, so I was used to doing that. And so the Council of Churches got the YWCA to allow us to renovate their dirty basement in their building. It was just storage when we got it. And we moved all these, some of it was just junk. I don't even know why they had it down there. We moved everything out, and we cleaned the walls up and everything, about maybe 40 or 50 people, young people who were helping. And then we painted it in the folk style, like you see in this sign here that one of the girls painted. This sign was outside the coffee house, and fortunately we had a door that led right to a parking lot. And I still have this sign. I kept it as a souvenir of my time at that era. I also have that. It says, "The Dock is pleased to announce the giving of free coffee to all until further notice." And of course, in the hippie era, you made the lines curve and everything's a little hard to read, but fun to do. No, all the walls were painted different colors, purple and everything. It was really quite nice. And we built a stage out of plywood, and I provided the sound system. So this was a chance for young people to sing, and some of them read poetry they had written, and my wife was a poet, and she read some of hers, and of course I sang. And then I gave my little sermon and the sermons were on a bunch of different topics, like war and men who when they come back from a date, another man asks them if he scored or not. It's like a contest rather than love, and I was commented on that. I thought that was pretty inappropriate, and I said he's probably lying anyway. He probably didn't score. He doesn't want to admit it. So anyway, but then of course the ministers wanted me to get around to the teenage pregnancy, and I learned the hard way that it's a very, very sensitive issue when a young man is counseling somebody's daughter about sex. And now that's occurring right now, where the same issues coming up in the South and so on. And they didn't mind that I advised the young people not to have sex until they had completed their education and were married, because that's what I believed, and that's what I did. I didn't have it until I was married. But I said, if they're not going to take my advice, then at least wear a condom. And the Catholic Church went crazy over that, and also the parents, because it sounded like I was condoning them to have sex. Well, I was just recognizing that they wouldn't necessarily do what I suggested. So at least I didn't want them to get anybody to get pregnant or to get a disease, because even though there wasn't AIDS, there were other diseases that were widespread that people got from intercourse. So anyway, I even had a guitar class there. At first I was singing to all these kids, but then the YWCA thought, well, it'd be great, maybe I should have a class for adults to play the guitar and sing. So they advertised that, and I got maybe about 10 students for each 4-week session. And interestingly, the husband of one of the people at Elam Park, I should have looked around to see if she was here. He was one of my students. He wasn't my best student either. And she knew that too. But he was so enthusiastic. And several of his friends came to the class also, and they were a lot better than he was. But anyway, I'm getting off the subject here. So my message to the teenagers was, if you make a mistake and get pregnant, then your boyfriend will probably ditch you because he was just trying to have fun. He certainly didn't want to be a parent at that point, and you'll be stuck with this child. And so it can ruin your life in a sense, because you can't continue with your schooling and you'll be all alone, and there's a stigma in society about this and so on. So unfortunately, I don't have any recordings of when I was back in this coffee house because we didn't have videos then, and I'm singing, so I can't record myself at the same time. But I do have a 1990 recording of one of the songs I used to sing there. So I thought I'd play that for you so you can hear the kind of thing I was playing for these teenagers. Each one of my songs had a message. It was tied into my sermon of the evening, so that was the way I would do it. I'd start with a song, and then I'd go on, and we'd all talk about it. In this particular recording here, my daughter Polly, who is a Down syndrome daughter, I was running a charity show. I used to run a number of charity shows. That's why I'm in a tuxedo, because when I'm the director of a show, I usually wear a tuxedo. My daughter Polly introduced me, and she surprised me totally by saying in front of everybody that she loved her father, so it's sort of cute. She gives me a little kiss and everything. And then I do the song that is really the same song I used to do in the coffee house.
Now my father will play the guitar and sings a song called Sean. I love my father.
I didn't expect that. One of the biggest problems in Meriden today is teenage pregnancy. But instead of dealing with it, we try to pretend that it isn't happening. I think we should talk about it, and write about it, and maybe even sing songs about it. When I was 15, and a man of the world, I was madly in love with a Catholic girl. She had gray Irish eyes and the whitest of teeth, and a body that left the whole neighborhood weak. It was a body a fully grown woman should have in the spring of her years, in the summer of love. So for gentlemen callers, she'd a dozen or more. But I was the one her dad let in the door. And in the small hours, the whole town asleep, I'd crawl out my window and climb down my tree. And I'd light up a lookie as I walked to her house, where I'd climb through her window to lure her out. We'd go down to the park and we'd lie in the grass and talk about life as it flew by so fast. And sometimes she'd kiss me and sometimes she'd let me touch her in the dark where I hadn't touched yet. But sometimes at her window I thought I would die. She'd already be out with some other guy. Sean, where you gone? It's 1968 and the Beatles are on. I've got 9 cigarettes that should last us till dawn. Oh, Sean, where you gone? There was Bobby and Barry, Paul, Jim and Rick. You were so friendly, it was literally sick. But when we were alone, I was more or less lost, and I'd do what you told me, whatever the cost. And sometimes I'd come help when you'd babysit kids. For all that we knew, they were dead in their cribs. It was late in October, I think, when I heard everybody was talking and spreading the word. Hey, did you hear Sean's pregnant? and she's keeping the kid, and she's not telling anyone who the guy is. When I saw you, I didn't know quite what to say, but I wasn't the only one speechless that day. A week later we learned that you dropped out of school, and all your old suitors were playing it cool. So I walked to your house and I climbed up your tree, and all that I knew was it couldn't be me. But you had left town and you never came back. Later we learned the baby was black. Sean, where you gone? It's 1968 and the Beatles are on. I've got 9 cigarettes that should last us till dawn. Oh, Sean, where you gone? Now it's 20 years later, and I'm still a guy with the flyaway hair and the smoke in his eye. It's our high school reunion, and everyone's here laying down the effects of the drugs and the beer. We are balding and gray, overweight or just tired. So is the rock and roll band. Someone hard, but the music is playing a song from that year. And all I can think is that you should be here. 'Cause while we wax nostalgic, all wistful or sad, still we celebrate something that you never had. A chance to grow slowly, a chance to find peace. You became an adult in just 36 weeks, while we were enjoying the time to be young. You were somewhere alone, taking care of your son. And it's not mine to say to forgive or forget, and I wouldn't presume that you're full of regret. Still I wish you could see how we turned into men, now that we're all reunited again. It was a magical mystery tour we were on, a long winding road we're still traveling, Sean. When I was 15 and a man of the world, I was madly in love with a Catholic girl. Sean, where you gone? It's 1968 and the Beatles are on. I've got 9 cigarettes that should last us till dawn. Oh, Sean, where you gone?
Here, yeah. So I also sang at a men's club that I belonged to, and actually Bill Wheaton was a member, for those of you who know him or knew him. This was in downtown Meriden, and it was men only, and they didn't have a high opinion of women, which I thought it was a little offensive, to be honest with you. But these guys would all get drunk, and then they'd sit around telling dirty jokes. And I don't like dirty jokes because I think they're demeaning to women. Plus, I don't drink alcohol, so I was really totally the wrong person to be there, and I got out of there pretty soon after that. But not before they signed me up to do variety shows to raise money, because they were losing money. It turned out the main reason they were losing money is because the manager was stealing money from them, because everybody paid in cash, and he was pocketing a lot of it. And he stole my sound system, actually, one time. So But anyway, I ran these charity shows to raise money. So here I am just singing, the kind of song you'd sing in a men's club.
I think all of us have a song that we fondly remember from our childhood. For some of it's a song that your parents taught you when they rocked you to sleep. But in my case, my favorite childhood song I learned in the detention room when I was staying after school. It's called She's Got Freckles on Her, But She Is Nice. Now, unfortunately, even though it's my favorite song, I couldn't remember the words, and I vainly searched for them, but they weren't on any record. So my wife has assisted me by writing some original verses to an old song. She's got freckles on her butt, she is nice. And when she's in my arms, it's paradise. She sews, she purls, she knits. She's got a lovely pair of eyes. She's got freckles on her butt, she is nice. She's got freckles on her butt, she is nice. When she's in my arms, it's paradise. She's a girl from Hackensack. She made a fortune on her career. She's got freckles on her butt, she is nice. Now I can see from your faces that you're all dying to sing the song. So I'm going to give you your chance. I'd like all of you to sing the first two lines of each verse. Now first let's practice this. We want to do this seriously. It's a beautiful song. We wouldn't want to ruin it. Everyone together. She's got freckles on her butt. She is nice. When she's in my arms, it's paradise. Very feeble, but not bad. Now let's try once more, and then I'll move right into the song. Okay, here we're starting again. She's got freckles on her butt. She is nice. When she's in my arms, it's paradise. And though it may sound corny, she makes me feel so wonderful. She's got freckles on her butt. She is nice. Everyone, she's got freckles on her butt. She is nice. When she's in my arms, it's paradise. She's the daughter of a weaver, and I've seen her little tapestry. She's got freckles on her butt. She is nice. You got that one, didn't you? Everyone, she's got freckles on her butt. She is nice. When she's in my arms, it's paradise. She's a bonny little lass, and she helps me feel important. She's got freckles on her butt. She is nice. "150 years ago, the flush toilet was invented by an Englishman named Sir John Crapper. Although this invention has done more to improve our standard of living than either the telephone or the electric light, the name of John Crapper has survived only as two of the nicknames for the toilet which he invented. Tonight I'd like to pay tribute to this great inventor by singing a lovely melody in his honor. Passengers, will please refrain from flushing toilet while the train is standing in the station. I love you. Therefore we urge constipation while the train's in the station. If the train can't go, then why should you? It's worse. Telling the stars. My favorite pastime after dark is goosing statues in the park. If Sherman's horse can take it, why can't you? Ever since I met your daughter, I've had trouble passing water. Footprints on the dashboard upside down.
I spared you a few other songs. Oh dear, what can the matter be? 3 old ladies locked in the lavatory, and if my nose was running money, I'd blow it all on you. A few others. But anyway, so I used to sing romantic songs also. This is sort of fun for me anyway. My friend Nancy Rohde, her husband's one of my best friends, and he and I played golf every week for years and everything. But she and I sang in the Kiwanis show, and we thought we'd do a duet. So we're behind the curtain and we're waiting to go on, and I realized she's having a panic attack. And she said, "I can't do it. You're going to have to do this by yourself." And I said, "What's the problem?" She said, I'm afraid I won't come in the right moment or anything. So I said, "Look, I'll hold your hand, and when it's time for you to come in, I'll squeeze it. And then you just start singing." So anyway, she finally consented, and right at the last moment, really. And we came out, and I'm thinking, oh, geez, I hope this goes well. But it turned out she did a great job, and so here, this is my romantic side, anyway.
Just you and I, sharing our love together, and I know in time we'll build the dreams we treasure. We'll be alright, just you and I. Just you and I.
Just you and I,
Sharing our love together, and I know in time
and I know in time
we'll build the dreams we treasure. We'll be alright, just you and I. And I remember our first embrace, that smile that was on your face, and promises that we made. And now your love is my reward, and I love you even more than I ever did before. Just you and I,
just you and I,
we care and trust each other. With you in my life,
with you in my life,
there'll never be another. We'll be alright, just you and I. I remember our first embrace, that smile that was on your face, and promises that we made. And now your love is
as time went by, all of a sudden folk music was out, and everybody was into acid rock and all kinds of other things. And then later on, the synthesizer became the most popular instrument to use because it could do so many things, and so convenient. You didn't have to carry all this stuff around. The problem for me is that I can't read music. And the reason I can't read music is because I have a condition called face blindness. Prosopagnosia is the technical term. So if somebody is wearing a hoodie, I don't know who they are. And it was very difficult when I would be at NASA and everybody would have these tight things around their face to keep the hair from getting into this space capsule. And so all I saw were the faces, and I had no idea who anybody was. Well, that also applies to music, because when you read music, you haven't got time to look at all these little dots and say, well, that looks like an A, and that looks like an F, and that's a G. Well, maybe that's an open F major chord, blah, blah, blah. People who read music, it's just like recognizing faces. They see this thing with all the dots on it, immediately know what chord it is, and then they play it. Well, since I can't do that, I had to make up my own accompaniment. But it turned out, though, that I can play by ear, that I just make up my own. And I don't even know how I do it, because I sit down, and all of a sudden, all the chords are coming out and everything. I really have, it's like somebody else is doing it. So when I play a song, I'm listening to it like somebody else and thinking, oh, that's interesting. Wonder who's doing that, but it's actually me doing it. So here's a medley of 3 love songs, and I'm playing the synthesizer.
Those of you who have known me for a long time know that I've played the guitar for about 20 years. When I was playing back in the 1960s, about 95% of all the music you heard on the radio was accompanied by a guitar, so I was doing just fine. But little by little, things changed, and the synthesizer took over. And it's gotten to the point now where maybe 90% of all the music you hear is done on a synthesizer. So I decided maybe the time had come for me to learn a new instrument. You never are too old to learn something new. Unfortunately, it doesn't play like a guitar, so it was a little bit of a challenge to make the transition. I bought this about 6 months ago. The synthesizer is like an electric piano, but it plays, in this particular case, 128 different instruments. For example, here's a cello. And it has a piano and bells and all kinds of other things. So what I've tried to do is to create a medley of 3 love songs. And every once in a while, when things get a little slow, I switch from one instrument to another to make sort of an orchestra effect. So let's hope this works out. If a picture paints 1,000 words, then why can't I read you? The words would never show the you I've come to know. If a face could launch 1,000 ships, then where am I to go? There's no one home but you. not for a year, but never end the day. The radio and the telephone and the news that we know may just be passing fancies, and in time may go. But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. In time the Rockies may crumble, Gibraltar may tumble. There are no end of gray. But our love is here to stay. Thank you.
So while I'm on the subject of romance, something that not everyone here knows, at one point in my life I wrote romance novels. When my first wife was dying of cancer, I had a 24-hour caregiver for her, so I couldn't go anywhere and didn't have much else to do. So I started writing these novels. And the illustration here, the Castle of Longing and Desire, was one that involves a Yale student, because this all relates to my life and everything, involves a Yale student who discovered he's heir to the throne, in this royal family or whatever, or he owns the estate and everything, and he goes there, and then he meets this girl who he remembers from his childhood and everything. It's very sophisticated though. It's not like your regular crappy romance novels. I got all kinds of psychological things in there, and I like to think it's, there's much more. And there's a little mystery in there he has to solve, and of course, like everything else in my life, there's a religious message, the Unitarian message, because in this novel he climbs down. This little boy falls over the edge of a cliff while everybody's up there having a party, and nobody can reach him, and they're afraid he's going to fall and die. And I take a rope and I climb down and I rescue him and everything. And then the woman that I'm in love with decides that she loves me, and that's, so the golden rule applies in this story also. And you notice I've X'd out my name because I have a pen name when but I don't want anybody here or anywhere else in my life to actually read these, because they're a little bit revealing about some of my inner fantasies that I have in my life. But in fact, and some of you here know this. This is the family home in England, and but my side of the family, it's the oldest son gets everything. So. The oldest son then provided money for my family to come to the United States, and we're all ministers, because everybody was a minister in this family, so that sort of worked out. So right away, Richard Boynton in the old days was a minister, and so on. But this is the, I visited here when I was about 50 years old. And first I had to come to the gatehouse, which was this big, I thought it was the home, actually. I just saw how naive I was. I thought, oh, this is quite a home. Well, it turned out to be just the gatehouse. And they called up and they said, we've got a relative of yours here, and he was just stopping by to say hello. Well, next thing you know, my great uncle or whatever he is came down in a Rolls Royce with a chauffeur driving him, and I get in the back with him, and then he drives back up to the estate, which is this building here, which is a lot bigger than Downton Abbey. This is maybe 3 times as big as Downton Abbey. But the interesting thing, his voice was just like my father's. It was just, and he looked like my father. So it really was quite a surprise because I had seen pictures of him, but I never saw him in real life, and he sounded just like. So it's funny how the genetics are, and it turns out he has the largest collection of impressionist paintings in Great Britain. And all these paintings that I had loved over the years, that I had pictures of, I'm looking at the real thing, and it was really quite a fun visit. Yeah. But he died, and he willed the estate to the National Trust because it would cost him $4 million a year or something to maintain it, and so he thought that would probably be the best thing to do. So now it's open to the public, and they found somebody, distant relative or whatever, who was the oldest male relative associated with him, who now lives there. But it's mainly now just a tourist site. That's quite different. So when I was 12 years old, I put on magic shows for young kids' birthday parties. I think I was about 12 years old, but the kids were 5 years old and 7 years old, that kind of thing. So they were really easy to do this. But my idea, I'd seen on the movies that magicians, they always wore a tuxedo, and they had a female assistant who was in a very tight, revealing outfit. So that's what I did. So I had a tuxedo. Believe it or not, when I was 12 years old and going to a private school, whenever there was a party, all the men wore tuxedos. We all had our own. We all wore white gloves, and the girls all came in gowns, quite elegant gowns and everything. This is what Providence, Rhode Island society was. I don't know if anywhere else in the whole United States was still like a throwback to the 1800s. But that's the way we did. So I already had a tuxedo. But it must have, the parents really laughed because I'm this little kid in a tuxedo, and I've got my girlfriend's wearing a tight bathing suit, and we're doing these magic tricks. But anyway, that's how I did magic shows. So the rest of my life, whenever I did a magic show, I always wore a tuxedo. And I got some girlfriend of mine or some other friend dressed in a sexy way, and that was how I did them. So I'm going to show you a magic trick of mine, and then you can figure out how I did this. This is for a show in Meriden.
Here about 25 years ago, one of the reasons for its instant success was the transporter that would beam Captain Kirk from the starship down to the alien planet below. When this appeared in the TV show, it was just a figment of a writer's imagination, but now most of you probably have read in the newspaper that a real transporter has been developed and is being manufactured right here in Meriden, and we were very fortunate to be able to borrow one tonight and conduct a demonstration. Now, several days ago, when I was experimenting with the transporter, I accidentally transported myself to the planet Zorg. I had a fascinating experience, and when I returned, I brought two young women back with me. I'd like to introduce them to you at this time. As you may have heard, the inhabitants of the planet Zorg don't use names, they use numbers. This is J437126915543, but we call her J43 for short. And this is K915736, and her nickname is K91. The inhabitants of Zorg are much more intelligent than humans on Earth, and in the short time that she's been on Earth, J43 has learned English. J43, I know the operation of the transporter is very complex, but can you give us a brief, simplified explanation of how it works?
Certainly, Professor Boynton. In simple terms, the basic concept of the transporter involves a space-time continuum of alpha-beta rays and a delta modulation of the intrinsic barrier between the oxygen tetrahydroxide bond and the ozone layer, affecting the short-term variation of nuclear quarks in the Mason region of the force field.
Thank you, J43, for explaining the operation in terms we all can understand. I'd like to say a few words about real transporters. Unlike the ones you see on TV, real transporters require that the subject be contained in an enclosure that is completely dark inside. If you look to my left, You'll see an object that looks superficially like an ordinary cardboard box, but is in fact a special container manufactured by the Aerospace Division of Maytag, and it contains a coating of beryllium dioxide to focus the transporter beam.
This is the transporter. By energizing this beam, I will send the object in the box to another location.
I should point out there's a certain amount of risk involved in doing this experiment. When we tried this last night, the people seated in the first 2 rows of the auditorium were accidentally transported to the Red Dog Saloon in Middlefield. Since that time, we lowered the power, so that shouldn't happen tonight.
If any of you notice during the experiment that the person seated next to you has disappeared, please check the roof of the auditorium. I'm sure you'll find them there.
We're going to have to turn up the house lights now. Since the transporter only moves objects in complete darkness, you can all feel very safe at this moment. Now, I'd like to direct your attention to the box in the back of the auditorium. That box is similar to the one on the stage and is also coated with beryllium dioxide to focus the rays of the transporter. We are ready to run the experiment. At this time, I'd like to ask K91 to get in the special enclosure. The timing of this experiment is very critical. K91 is going to count to 6. At the count of 3, J43 will redirect the transporter beam, causing K91 to be transported instantaneously to the box in the rear of the auditorium. Are you ready, J43?
Oh, yes. Yes, I am.
I don't think you want to do it in front of all these people. What I meant was, are you ready to transport K91 to the back of the auditorium?
Yes, I am, Professor Boynton.
K91, would you begin counting? Now, K91 has been transported to the box in the rear of the auditorium. It's relatively easy to do that, but much more difficult to bring her back. We're going to attempt that at this very moment. Are you ready, J43?
Yes, I am, Professor Boynton.
K91, would you begin counting? If everything operated properly, K91 should be back in the box on the stage in exactly the same position we saw her last. We've had some problem with this, so I want to apologize to you ahead of time. If K91 is not in this box, then unfortunately she's still back in the box in the rear of the auditorium. Let's hope it works. You've seen it with your own eyes, a real transporter demonstration. There appear to be some people in the audience who didn't fully appreciate the scientific importance of this experiment. I'd like to repeat this experiment once more so you can watch very closely. K91, would you enter the box again? Oh, jeez. Okay, I'll do it.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Now, we will attempt the more difficult task of bringing Professor Boynton back to the box on the stage. Are you ready, Professor Boynton? Do you think he's still in the other box?
Okay, let's try it again.
Yes, I am.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So how did I do that? Does anyone know? What's that? Huh? My brother's a twin. Yes, that's right. I did so many different tricks with him, based on the same principle. We even did it in his mental hospital that he ran. We should not have done that because they were confused enough as it was. Well, actually, I'll tell you a very, very quick thing here. We're running out of time, but I was at top secret classification when I was designing a secret weapon during the 1960s or so. And there were two different layers you had to go through in order to get to my office. First, you had to go through the secret part, and there was a guard there. He would check your license and your photograph and your fingerprint and so on, and then he'd let you in. And then you went through this whole area to near the end to where the top secret was, which was I was in. And you had to go through a similar routine there. So my brother is visiting me at this company, and I told him, just come into the main entrance, and then I'll come out and get you. We can go out to lunch and so on. Well, the next thing I know, he's in the top secret area. What happened is, because I was going in every day, maybe several times a day. So the guard took one look at him and just opened the door for him without checking any identification. And then he got to we asked where, he went all the way through to the next door. And the super top secret area he was in. Well, now I had a dilemma. How do I get him out of there? So what I decided to do is have him go out, wait about 10 minutes and have him go all the way out. And then I waited until the guards changed, which is another 15 minutes. Fortunately, the timing was good. So they wouldn't see the same guy going out twice. Otherwise, I would have had the FBI down there, and very tough to explain, and I might have lost my top secret clearance and everything. So I'll just show you, this is my brother. Normally a magician never tells how he does the tricks. It spoils it. But in this case, since my brother would not be able to do it again and everything, so I felt badly about doing it actually, but I made an exception. I let everybody know. So here's my brother and I, and we're both singing, and you can see his voice is just like mine and everything. So, and I can't tell, when I see my brother on a photograph, I don't know which is me. I have to look at the clothing. So when we're both dressed alike, I have no idea. So at this point, I'm not sure which one is me. So what we did is we sang the Double Mint Twins ad, if you ever remember that from years ago. These two twins used to come on and they were selling gum. So here we are.
Double your fun. And your pleasure, double your fun. With double your fun. Double your pleasure, double your fun. And double everything rolled into one. Double your pleasure, double your fun.
about them. So this first one is a religious song. I grew up on a farm when I was a little kid, so I knew all about farming, and so this song appeals to me, and it's my type of religion, which is Unitarian. And the world's worst photographer filmed this. I've never, because I have no idea who these people are. I got these things from a friend of mine. But this guy, he must have been drunk or something, because first he's looking at the ceiling, and then at my shoes, and then God knows where else. But anyway, here it is. And I should have told the audience. I normally tell the audience whether it's going to be a funny song or not, because otherwise they're always waiting for the funny part. And if it's a religious song, that sort of annoys me, because I mean it to be, a little different. So anyway.
You can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine upon the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet faith of man. All right, let's everyone just practice this. You can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine across the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet faith of man. We need about double the volume. If the person next to you gives you a funny look, just give it right back. You can't sing at all. One more practice. You can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine across the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet faith of man. Sound good now? All right, I'm going to do the verses, and you just figure out when to come in, all right? One day a babe was born out on the prairie, a tiny helpless thing in God's command. And the mother smiled a gentle smile of knowing, and the father held it proudly in his hand. Everyone, you can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine upon the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet faith of man. A little girl is skipping stones across the water. A little boy building castles in the sand. The miracle of life makes all men wonder. We'll never know the mystery of God's plan. You can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine upon the land. Take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet faith of man. The tractor makes its way along the fence line. The seeds are planted all in a row. If the rain is kind and the wind don't take the topsoil, before too long the crops will start to show. And the farmer sees the fields around him ripen, and whispers something low beneath his breath. Perhaps a little prayer to help the growing, perhaps a word of thanks for all the rest. You can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine upon the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet faith of man. An old man walks along the narrow pathway. His thoughts are of the days when he was young. leaves turn brown before they line the roadway. A cold wind brings the first snow into town. You can't trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine upon the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet day, man. There's a storm-tossed ship tonight out on the ocean. There's a soul that sails alone out on the blue. There's a dreamer with his eye upon the heaven. They're all looking for a way to make it through. You can't trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine across the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet day, man. Let's sing the chorus one more time, very softly. You can trust the moon to move the mighty ocean. Trust the sun to shine across the land. You take the little that you know, and you do the best you can, and you save the rest for the quiet day of man. Thank you.
I'm going to pass that, which was really fun, but it takes a little while. So here's a song that I wrote originally, and then my wife, who was a poet, fixed it up because she really she had a way with words that was much better than mine. So between the two of us, we got this song. But the thing about this song for me is it's the essence of my belief about life and about what I try to be. So it's my telling you about the way I feel about the world. So I'm going to have everybody sing a chorus in this one, and I don't want anybody backing out because I'm looking right here. I'm going to write names down if I don't see you singing. So at least mouth the words. So you got to fake it, or I'll be after you afterwards. So we're going to practice it. I think hopefully I do in this thing. And I've written the words up there, which hopefully you can read, but let me see how they are. Oh, well, they're kind of tiny, but anyway, it's you and me, we're in this together, you and me. That's pretty simple. Let me share my life with you, be your friend in all you do. Together we can make our dreams come true. That's the chorus. And the verses, you don't have to sing those, just the chorus. But I'm watching, I'm taking names down, so... all right, here we go.
About how it sounds, and then when we get to the real thing, you'll do it perfectly. You and me, we're in this together, you and me. Let me share my life with you, be your friend in all you do. Together we will make our dreams come true. Okay, let's just practice that. You and me, we're in this together, you and me. Let me share my life with you, be your friend in all you do. Together we will make our dreams come true. All right, this is for real. I'm going to start out with a verse, and then you'll know just when to come in. Strength and where the barren desert stood. We're in this together, you and me. Everyone sing, you and me, you and me. We're in this together, you and me. Let me share my life with you, be your friend in all you do. Together we will make our dreams come true. God made the mountains rise above the jagged cliffs below, golden wheat fields bending in the wind. We build our concrete monuments, our gardens
me share my life with you. Be your friend in all you do. Together we will make our dreams come true. Sounds good. Our dreams come true. All the wars we had won, the times we felt defeat, the battle victims all have died in vain. The time has come for all mankind to put away the gun, 'cause we're in this together, everyone. Everyone, everyone, we're in this together, everyone. Let me share my life with you, be your friend in all you do. Together we will make our dreams come true. If I could live my life again and do it right this time, I'd try to keep you always loving me. I'd help mankind in many ways, I'd set my spirit free. 'Cause we're in this together, you and me. You and me, you and me. We're in this together, you and me. Let me share my life with you, be your friend in all you do. Together we will make our dreams come true.
Next Tuesday at 3 p.m., we will have the one and only lecture I'm going to give on the climate crisis. And I'm not going to mess around with this because this is a big problem for the Earth. So I'm not going to waste time trying to explain that humans are causing the weather to spiral out of control, because it's obvious to an intelligent audience, and I consider this an intelligent audience, that we're in big trouble and that things aren't the way they used to be, and we need to do something about it. So I'm going to try to spell it out, and hopefully, well, nothing ever came. I've been doing this for 20 years, and people have been yelling and screaming from the audience, but not recently. They don't yell and scream anymore because they know. They know. I mean, it's obvious that so many things have happened that are just unheard of, that they know that things are not the way they should be, and so we need to pay attention and deal with it, I think. So I hope to see you all next Tuesday at 3 o'clock.